"You don't belong at this table," my mother whispers, her lipstick-stained smile never faltering as she leans across the linen cloth. Her voice is soft enough for the others not to hear, but sharp enough to cut through the air between us. For a second, I can't move. The sound of laughter, silverware clinking, the murmur of other diners, it all blurs into static. I stand there in the entrance of Delvani's, the city's trendiest Italian restaurant, clutching my purse like armor. Every eye at our table turns toward me. My father with that stiff smirk of disapproval, my brother Mason already rolling his eyes, my cousins exchanging knowing glances. I swallow hard. "Mom, you said dinner was at 7. She tilts her wine glass and smiles. "We decided to start early. You know how you always run late." My gaze flicks to the clock above the bar, 6:58. I'm early. I'd left work mid-meeting to be here, still in my pressed navy blazer, still smelling faintly of printer ink and rain. I'd even grabbed a gift. A bottle of her favorite champagne, wrapped with gold ribbon. But I can see the half-empty plates, the crumbs of dessert, the faint red ring of wine on the white tablecloth. They've already eaten. The celebration, my parents' 35th anniversary dinner, is over. Without me, I force a smile that feels brittle. "I thought we were all meeting at 7. Dad wipes his mouth with his napkin, not even looking at me. "Plans change, Harper. Maybe next time try being on time for once." But I was... My mother's eyes narrow in warning. "Don't make a scene, sweetheart. You can order something if you want, but the kitchen's probably closing soon." The table erupts in quiet laughter. My brother leans back in his chair, swirling his drink. "Maybe order a slice of humble pie, Harper. You've been starving for attention lately. The sting is instant." My throat tightens, but I manage to sit down at the empty seat at the corner, the one farthest from my parents. The waiter approaches hesitantly, pity flickering across his face. "Will you be joining for dessert, miss?" Before I can answer, my mother waves her manicured hand. "No, dear. She'll just have the check." The laughter this time isn't quiet. It ripples across the table, Mason choking on his drink, Aunt Gwen covering her mouth like she's hiding a grin. My father doesn't laugh, but he doesn't stop it either. He never does. My face burns as the waiter glances at me, uncertain. I want to disappear. I want the ground to open beneath me and swallow me whole. "I'll take care of my meal," I say finally, voice trembling. "But you don't need to..." "Oh, relax," Mom says, smiling wide enough for the surrounding tables to see her perform her role as perfect hostess. "We're only teasing. You take things too seriously, Harper." "Always have," she lifts her glass in a mock toast. "To family." Even the dramatic ones, glasses clink. My hands shake beneath the tablecloth. I'd spent the entire week organizing this dinner, making the reservation, confirming the guest list, even covering the deposit with my own card because Mom said her credit limit was tied up. And now I'm the punchline at the table I paid for. "Actually," the waiter says quietly, placing a folded slip of paper in front of me. "This just came in." I unfold it slowly. A bill. $247.80, my name handwritten at the top. The laughter dies as I stare at it, blinking. My pulse roars in my ears. "What is this?" I whisper. My mother takes another sip of wine, eyes glinting. "Oh, didn't I mention? The reservation was under your name, dear. The restaurant charged your card for the deposit." She shrugs like it's nothing. "We just assumed you'd cover the rest." "You know how generous you are." My mouth goes dry. I look around the table. No one meets my eyes. "You charge this entire dinner to my card?" Dad sighs, tired of my tone. "You can afford it, Harper. You've got that fancy job, don't you? Don't be ungrateful." "It's just money. Just money," I repeat, my voice barely audible. Mason snorts. "Come on, sis. Don't make it weird. You always pay. Consider it your contribution to family bonding." Something inside me fractures. The same ache I've felt for years. The one that starts every time I try to belong and ends with me being reminded I never will, turns to something harder. Colder. I stand up slowly, the chair scraping against the marble floor. "Enjoy your dessert," I say. My voice sounds strange in my own ears, steady, almost detached. "Harper, don't you dare walk out on your family," Dad warns, but I already am. The air outside hits me like a slap. Cold, sharp, clean. I walk fast, heels clicking against the pavement, the folded bill still clenched in my hand. Somewhere behind me, I think I hear Mason laughing again. Or maybe it's just in my head. By the time I reach my car, my hands are trembling too badly to find the keys. I drop them twice before managing to unlock the door. The tears come only when I'm inside, engine running, headlights cutting through the rain. It's not the money. It's not even the public humiliation. It's the realization that they've always seen me this way, useful, dependable, but never one of them. At home, the apartment is silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I toss the receipt onto the counter and stare at it. $2,247. My parents' anniversary gift to themselves, funded by me. I take a deep breath, open my laptop, and check my bank account. The charge is already pending. But it's not the only thing that catches my eye. There are transfers I don't recognize. Small ones at first, then larger. Family maintenance fund, household emergency, mom reimbursement. The total hits over $6,000. My stomach twists. My family hasn't just taken advantage of me tonight. They've been taking advantage of me for months, and as I stare at the glowing screen, one thought slices through the fog of humiliation like a blade. They think I'll keep paying for their cruelty. But this time, they're wrong. I close my laptop, wipe my eyes, and whisper to the empty room. Dinner's over. I woke the next morning with the taste of wine and shame still lingering in my mouth. My phone was a carousel of notifications, each one worse than the last. Mason had texted, "Relax, it was just a joke. Can't take a little ribbing?" My father's voicemail was waiting. Half-hearted apology, half lecture, all disguised as concern. "Your mother was upset, Harper. You embarrassed her. Call and make this right. Call and make this right." As if I had done anything wrong. I swiped through the texts again, my finger hovering over the delete button. Instead, I opened my banking app, hoping to distract myself from the familiar ache of being laughed at. That's when I saw it. A charge I didn't authorize labeled Family Maintenance Fund, $4,800. My pulse jumped. I clicked through the transactions, scanning for a mistake, a mislabeling, anything. But the numbers continued. Small withdrawals, large withdrawals, all logged under my digital signature. My hands went cold, and I sank onto the edge of the kitchen counter. They had been doing this for months, maybe years. The deposit for dinner, the anniversary gift, Mason's overpriced gadgets, my parents' vacations. Every generous impulse I'd ever had been turned into a ledger of exploitation. The humiliation at the restaurant suddenly made perfect sense. They weren't mocking me because I showed up late. They were mocking me because I had always been their ATM. I printed every statement, every receipt, every confirmation email, laying them out across the kitchen table like evidence in a courtroom I hadn't yet imagined. The pattern was indisputable. I had paid for family vacations I wasn't even invited to. I had covered emergency home repairs, dental work, Mason's credit card debt. My own savings had been quietly siphoned to support a life I barely participated in. The anger bubbled up first, hot and sharp, and then it settled into a cold clarity. The kind of clarity that comes when humiliation turns to resolve. I opened a new document on my laptop and began a meticulous spreadsheet, tracking every transaction, every date, every dollar. There was no room for feelings here, just facts. By noon, I had drafted an email to the bank's fraud department. Calm, precise, and utterly unflinching, I attached screenshots and PDFs, labeling each suspicious transaction, unauthorized withdrawal, verify. My hands didn't shake anymore. The rage had transformed into methodical determination. Then came the text message I didn't expect to send. A single line to my entire family group. "Dinner's on you now. Check your accounts." The silence that followed was profound. No pings, no snickers, no casual oops. I could almost hear the collective gasp across the city as my parents realized that the child they had always humiliated was no longer playing their game. The rest of the day was a blur. Calls came in, my mother begging, my father pleading, Mason mocking in a text. "Wow, tough girl, huh? Didn't know you had it in you." I ignored them all. For the first time, the humiliation didn't stick. Instead, a strange satisfaction settled in. They were afraid now. Later, I sat on the balcony, staring out at the rain streaking down the city lights. The restaurant, the laughter, the bill, it all felt distant like a cruel dream. I realized I had been complicit in my own humiliation for years, trying to earn their approval, trying to prove I belonged. And for what? The approval never came. They never saw me as family, only as someone who would pay. I thought of the countless times I had bent myself into their mold, birthday gifts, Christmas surprises, emergency loans, dinner parties. Each one now felt like a brick in the wall they had built between us, brick by brick, using my generosity as mortar. By evening, I had a plan forming. Not revenge exactly, not yet, but a strategy to reclaim control. First step, no more automatic transfers, no more unmonitored access. I blocked Bryn as an authorized user on my credit card. I scheduled meetings with my bank to dispute the charges and investigate the trust fund my father had created under my name. Every precaution I could take, I did. And yet beneath the cold efficiency, the sting of betrayal lingered. My mother's words, Mason's smirk, my father's dismissive shrug, they echoed in my mind. "You don't belong at this table." They were right, but not in the way they thought. I didn't belong, not in their toxic cycle, not in their pattern of humiliation. And that realization was the first step toward freedom. I spent hours gathering evidence, organizing spreadsheets, scanning receipts, and drafting emails. Each click, each file, each line of text was an act of defiance. By the time I leaned back in my chair, the city had gone dark outside my window. The quiet of my apartment was unfamiliar but comforting. No laughter, no judgment, no expectation. Just the glow of my laptop and the feeling of control I hadn't had in years. As I finally closed the laptop, a message notification lit up the screen. It was from an unknown number, but the area code matched the bank's fraud department. "Miss Harper? Diane Reynolds from Chase Bank. We need to discuss potentially unauthorized activity on your account. Do you have a moment?" I sat up straight, heart hammering, but my voice was calm. "Yes. I have everything ready." For the first time in years, the humiliation had turned outward. I wasn't just the victim anymore. I was a force to be reckoned with. And the family that had laughed at me at the table tonight? They would learn that lesson soon enough. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of anger, but because of clarity. I mapped out the next steps: evidence, fraud claims, confrontation, and boundaries. Every action would be deliberate, every word precise. I had been the obedient child, the dutiful provider, the silent sufferer for too long. Now Harper was taking her name back, and she would make them remember it. The next Saturday, I arrived at my parents' house with a calm I didn't feel, holding a leather portfolio stuffed with statements. Emails and receipts, evidence of every transaction, every unauthorized withdrawal, every manipulated payment. The familiar red brick colonial looked smaller somehow, as if the distance and my resolve had shrunk it in my mind. My mother answered the door, her hair perfectly coiffed, a forced smile plastered across her face. "Harper, what a..." Surprise, I didn't return her smile. Instead, I held up the portfolio. "I need everyone at the table today. All of you." Her eyes flickered to the leather folder and then away. "The whole family? Now? You don't want to..." "Yes, now." She opened her mouth, closed it, then stepped back reluctantly, allowing me in. My father appeared from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. Mason lounged on the sofa, phone in hand, smirk firmly in place. "Here comes trouble," he muttered under his breath, loud enough for me to hear. I set the folder on the dining table with deliberate slowness, meeting each of their eyes in turn. I've gathered all the evidence I could find of the financial support I've provided over the last 3 years. My voice was steady, cold, unflinching. Mason laughed nervously. "Harper, you're taking this too seriously." I opened the folder, flipping through the documents so they could see every charge, every transfer, every vacation, every emergency I'd covered. "Do you see this? This is not generosity. This is theft. This is the betrayal I've endured while sitting at this table, being humiliated, being treated like an ATM. My mother's lips quivered. "Harper, don't speak to your father like that." "I'm not speaking to Dad," I interrupted, pointing to Mason and then to her. "I'm speaking to all of you. For years I've been laughed at, mocked, and disrespected. For years I've paid for your lives while being told I was never enough. And now every single transaction is documented." My father leaned forward, brow furrowed. "What do you mean documented?" I slid over the papers. "These are bank statements, receipts, and copies of every transfer, every purchase made with my accounts without my explicit consent. Every time you called it a family obligation, every time you laughed while humiliating me, every time you expected me to cover your dinner, your vacations, your bills, I have proof." Silence fell over the room. Mason swallowed hard. My mother's hand shook as she folded and unfolded a napkin like a nervous child. "You're serious?" My father finally muttered. His usual mask of calm authority faltered. "I am." I kept my voice level, precise, cutting through the tension. "I've already contacted the bank's fraud department. I've blocked Bryn as an authorized user. And I've prepared a formal record of every instance. You've been manipulating me, humiliating me, and taking advantage of my hard work for too long. This ends today." Mason's phone slipped from his hand. "You can't do this," he said, voice cracking. "We're your family." "Family doesn't humiliate and steal," I said, leaning over the table. "You just admitted tonight that my generosity was expected, that my presence was optional, and that my money was yours for the taking. That's not family. That's exploitation." My mother tried again, tears now forming at the corners of her eyes. "Sweetheart, we didn't mean—" "You never meant to include me, did you?" I said softly, almost pitying. "You just wanted to control me, embarrass me, and take from me." My father's jaw tightened. "We raised you, Harper. You should respect your elders." I laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "Respect is earned, Dad. Not bought, not forced, not extracted with a ledger and a wink. And if this is how you reward obedience, then I don't want your respect. I want accountability." The room went still, the silence thick and suffocating. Every gaze flickered to the folder on the table, their lives exposed in ink and paper. I pulled out a letter from my attorney, placed it on top of the portfolio. "This letter demands repayment for the fraudulent charges made to my accounts within 45 days. Failure to comply will result in legal action, including reporting to authorities for identity theft. I suggest you read it carefully." My mother gasped, clutching her pearls like she might faint. My father's hands trembled slightly as he scanned the pages. Mason's smirk had vanished, replaced by genuine fear. "You'd sue your own parents?" he whispered, incredulous. "You committed fraud against me. You've humiliated me in public. You have every reason to believe I wouldn't act, and now you will," I said, voice unwavering. My mother reached across the table, hand trembling, trying to grasp mine. I pulled back. "I'm not a child anymore. I'm not here to be humiliated, and I'm not here to pay for your indulgences." For the first time, I saw the fear I had always imagined in their eyes. The same fear I had felt for years, knowing they could destroy me socially, emotionally, financially, but now it was reversed. I stood, towering over the table, not with rage, but with authority. This is the last time you treat me like an outsider, the last time you assume my generosity is endless, and the last time you humiliate me for being responsible. Every future interaction will have boundaries. Every dollar I choose to share will be on my terms. Do not test this. The room was silent except for the soft ticking of the wall clock. They had no words, only guilt, fear, and disbelief reflecting back at me. I picked up the portfolio and walked toward the door. You have 45 days to make this right. Consider this a final lesson in accountability. The click of the front door echoed behind me. I didn't look back. Outside, the city air felt like liberation. The humiliation, the insults, the betrayal. They were all behind me. The portfolio under my arm wasn't just proof of wrongdoing. It was proof of my power. I slid into my car and exhaled, letting the tension drain from my shoulders. The first step had been taken, but the road ahead was long. I knew there would be calls, messages, perhaps threats, tears, and more insults. I would face them all with the same clarity I had felt since printing that first statement. I drove home, planning the next steps, letting the adrenaline shift into strategy. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about reclaiming respect, autonomy, and self-worth. As I pulled into my garage, phone buzzing with a new text from Mason, "You'll regret this, Harper. Family doesn't do this." I smiled, a sharp, cold smile. Family didn't do this. But I would. The following week, my inbox and phone exploded. Every platform I had blocked previously now lit up with desperate pleas, threats, and accusations. My mother's emails alternated between perfumed apologies and thinly veiled manipulation. Mason's texts were bitter and mocking. "You've ruined us. You'll see." My father sent long voicemail lectures, each one ending with the same empty threat. "You'll regret this, Harper." I ignored all of it. I didn't even glance at the messages. I had no intention of letting their fear or anger dictate my life anymore. My portfolio sat open on the dining table at home, a fortress of proof and strategy. Each carefully labeled document was a reminder. I had survived humiliation, betrayal, and financial exploitation, and I had done so while maintaining my composure. On day 20, the first wire transfer hit my account, $4,800. My heart raced, not because of relief, but because I had won. The first of many. I could almost hear the collective gasp of my family when they realized I wasn't bluffing. I sent a single message in reply, brief and cutting. "Consider this the first and last transaction under these circumstances. I will not fund your life without boundaries. Harper." The next week, another transfer. And another. Within 43 days, the full amount had been returned. Not a single apology, not a single acknowledgement of wrongdoing, just the cold, humiliating reality that they had been defeated at the one game they thought I would always lose. Sitting at my kitchen table that night, the portfolio finally closed. I let myself relax. The weight of years of exploitation, of endless humiliation, of always being the provider while never being seen, finally lifted. The apartment was silent, the air still, and I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I thought back to that night at the restaurant. Their laughter, their smirks, the way my mother had whispered, "You don't belong at this table." Every word, every insult, every condescending glance now fueled my resolve. That memory, once so sharp and painful, had transformed into a weapon I wielded without regret. For the first time, I understood what freedom felt like. Not just the absence of financial exploitation, but the absence of emotional chains. I wasn't just Harper the provider, the obedient child, the victim. I was Harper, independent, assertive, and unapologetic. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. I froze for a moment, heart still learning the rhythm of safety. It was Theo holding a bottle of wine and a knowing smile. "Thought you might want company tonight," he said. We sat at my small dining table, simple pasta and a salad between us, sharing stories that didn't involve anyone else. No lectures, no insults, no hidden expectations, just conversation. For the first time in years, I laughed without tension in my chest. Theo raised his glass. "To boundaries," he said with a grin. I clinked my glass against his, a quiet celebration of everything I had reclaimed. The days stretched into weeks, and my life shifted. I blocked more family contacts, set up new security on my accounts, and continued building my savings and investments. No more money vanished without my consent. No more guilt, no more tears, no more humiliation. The restaurant incident, the cruel whispers, the mockery, they were all part of a past I now controlled. One afternoon, a thick envelope arrived at my door. Cousin Paige's handwriting sprawled across it, elegant and precise. Inside was a wedding invitation, lavish and demanding, with gold-embossed letters and an RSVP card waiting for my decision. I stared at it for a moment, remembering the girl I used to be, the one who would have attended without question, anxious to avoid shame, eager to please. I placed the invitation on the counter, opened a bottle of sparkling cider, and poured a glass. For the first time, I understood that some invitations weren't meant to be accepted. Some tables, no matter how elegantly set, were never mine to occupy. Months passed. I traveled for the first time in years without checking a text, without wondering if my generosity would be expected, without fear of mockery. A trip to Montreal, long postponed, became a reality. My apartment felt lighter, brighter, a home I could finally call my own. Occasionally, my phone buzzed with news. My mother spreading rumors about my emotional instability, Mason muttering complaints to mutual friends, my father claiming I had abandoned the family. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. The truth wasn't in their mouths, it was in my bank account. My independence, my ability to breathe freely. One evening, as I watched the sunset paint the city in gold, I realized something fundamental. They had never been able to humiliate me when I refused to participate in their game. Every insult, every sneer, every public display of mockery held power only as long as I allowed it. And now I didn't. I thought back to that first shocking moment at the restaurant. The waiter dropping the $2,200 bill in front of me, their laughter ringing in my ears, the words, "You don't belong at this table," echoing like a cruel mantra. That memory no longer hurt. Instead, it reminded me of how far I had come, how I had turned humiliation into strength, betrayal into clarity, and cruelty into independence. I picked up my phone and drafted a final email to the family. No anger, no gloating, just clarity. All debts have been repaid. All accounts secured. Our interactions going forward will be on my terms. Any attempts to manipulate, humiliate, or exploit will be documented and addressed legally. Harper. I hit send, feeling a sense of closure I had never known before. Later that night, I sat at my small dining table with Theo, the city lights flickering through the windows. We toasted quietly, no need for words. The past was behind me. The humiliation was gone. The laughter, once so piercing, was now a distant echo. For the first time, I understood what it meant to truly belong. Not at their table, not in their house, not in their world, but at my own table, in my own life. With people who respected me and boundaries that protected me. I had been humiliated, insulted, and mocked, but I had reclaimed everything that mattered. My dignity, my money, my freedom, my life. And for Harper, that was more than enough.